Welcome to ADP Vantage Time and Attendance Training for GateHouse Media employees. Both employees and managers with direct reports should attend this full training. The first step is to log into ADP Vantage by entering your user ID and your password. Once you log on, you will be brought to the home screen, which will have Home and Myself. If you're an hourly employee, you will have a timestamp function on your home screen. In order to timestamp in and out of work, you just simply click the Record Timestamp button right on your home screen. You will receive a message on whether or not your punch was accepted. If you receive an error message, you might need to see your manager to make a correction to your time card. You can also timestamp by clicking Myself, Time and Attendance, and Time Workspace. On this page, you will receive a message that has Record Timestamp. You would click the Record Timestamp button to record your in and out time for work. This method is a lot more clicks, so I recommend that you use the Record Timestamp button on the home screen. Honor employees who are also paid hourly are not required to timestamp. However, they can use this function. If you're an honor employee, you also will be able to enter your hours directly onto your time card, which I will show you in a few minutes. Honor employees are usually employees that cannot easily access the ADP Vantage website during their work hours. Salary employees do not need to timestamp. However, salary employees will need to access ADP Vantage to approve their time card and to request time off. Under the Myself link, Time and Attendance, there is a link to accruals. This accruals link is not functional. It does not house any information, so please ignore this link. Under Time and Attendance, Time Workspace is where you'll be able to access your time card. The view I'm going to show you of a time card is that of an hourly employee. This is also what an honor employee's time card looks like. As you can see, you're in the Time Workspace on your time card, and there are several punches on this time card. Up at the top is the current pay period. If you click this down arrow, you'll receive a menu of different time periods you could change it to, such as the previous pay period. By clicking there on the previous pay period, you will see that the dates have changed to the previous pay period. You can also select dates by clicking the calendar icon and putting in a start date and an end date and clicking Apply. By doing that, you can look at a range of dates of your time card. For now, I'm going to work in the current pay period. As you can see, there are some red marks on this time card. The red marks are not important. They are basically to show there's been an exception to the schedule that is in the system. The schedule is usually listed in the schedule column toward the right of in your time card. This employee does not have a schedule, therefore the red mark appeared because it was considered an unscheduled entrance into work. As you can see, I can see that message by hovering over the cell. These columns are also expandable. So if I wanted to make this column larger, I can just simply click the column and make it larger so I can read what is in the column. To the left are the dates of the time period. The pay code column is the indicator of any special pay codes that have been entered into the time card. As you can see, there's one for sick. If I expand the column amount, you can see how many hours were associated with a sick pay code. The next column over is the in column. That's the entering of the work day. So on Monday, this employee worked at 8 a.m. They started their workday at 8 a.m. They punched. Then they took an unpaid meal break at noon and came back from their lunch at 12:30. And then they leave for the day at 4 o'clock. If you scroll over to the right in the time card, you can see there is also a daily and a period column. The daily is the amount of hours for the workday. The period column is a cumulative total that keeps adding until the end of the pay period. These red blocks indicate a missed punch. If you see one of these on your time card, your manager must make a correction to your time card. Only a manager can make edits to a time card. You can't make a correction to this time card as an employee. You also cannot add any kind of pay codes onto a time card as an employee. Only a manager can make those edits. The horizontal lines at the bottom of the time card you can click on, and it opens up a drawer. These drawers house how many hours you have worked for the pay period that has been selected. Again, in this case, I'm on the current pay period. As you can see, this says all, which indicates that I am trying to get the totals for the full current pay period. The regular hours are populated right next to the regular pay code, and any exception hours would be listed below, such as sick, and the hours associated with it. You can also change and look at how many hours you had in a day by clicking the menu list and selecting daily. If you want to look at a particular date, you must click on the date in the time card. So if I'm looking at October 4th, I click on it, and as you can see in the drawer below, totals for October 4th are indicated. So daily with a pay code of regular and the amount of hours associated with the pay code. Honor employees can enter their own time by going to Myself, Time and Attendance, Time Workspace. Time should be entered onto your time card on a daily basis or at least a few times a week, just to make sure that you're entering your time timely. So if I go to Friday to enter time and I worked 8 to 2, I can enter 8 and then A for AM and go to the out column and enter 2P for 2 p.m. As I mentioned before, ADP Vantage is also on military time. So if you entered these hours in military time, ADP Vantage would recognize that. Make sure that you enter the time in and out that you work, and then click Save at the top of the time card. Again, this is for honor employees, employees that the company has designated as honor employees. In order to request time off, you would go to My Calendar, off to the right of your time card. You click the cogwheel at the top right of My Calendar and click Pop Out. Once you do that, the calendar will populate on the main screen. And you can see that the time card is now moved to the bottom right of the screen. If you want the time card to populate again, you would just click the cogwheel at the top right of the time card and click Pop Out. But right now we're going to work with the calendar function. So the My Calendar, when you're looking at it, will show your accruals at the bottom of it. So this is a good view of what your accruals are. So as you can see, the accrual pay code is to the left. The accrued vested balance is to the right of that in hours. And then any time you may have taken is under the Taken to Date column. In order to request time off, there's a Request Time Off button in the top right of the calendar. As I click that, a window would populate on my screen. On this screen, you can enter the start date. So if I want to take a couple days off in a row, I'm going to click the start date. Let's just say I'm going to take October 9th and October 10th off. I would click October 9th, and for the end date, I would put October 10th. I can select what kind of pay code I want by clicking the drop-down menu and clicking whatever pay code I need to use. For instance, if I want to use vacation, I would click vacation and it would populate. The start time is whatever your schedule is in the system. So if you have a schedule of 8:30 to 4 p.m., you would enter a start time of 8:30. This system is sensitive to AM and PM. If you do not use AM or PM, usually it will default to a military time. So if you enter military time, the system will accommodate that. I'm going to enter 8:30 a.m. The duration field is equal to the amount of daily hours for your workday. So if you work 8 hours a day, you would put 8 hours here. Notice I'm requesting 2 days off. It still means I enter 8, not 16. If your request for time off spans over a weekend or a time frame where you have days that you typically do not work, do not include that in your request. You would have to actually submit a request on 2 different times. One for the time period prior to your unpaid days, and then a second one for not including those days. You can also see that your accruals are on the right side of this window. So you'll see the accrual code along with the hours associated with it. You can also change the date if you want to look at your accruals out further, say November 30th. You can just click on that and your hours will change. If I'm satisfied with this request, I can click submit, but I might want to add some notes, such as going to a wedding. This is optional, but it's a nice way to inform your manager why you're taking time off or keep track of it for yourself. So I can click submit. Once I click submit, my manager will receive an email notifying them of the request for the time off. That will let the manager know the dates that the request was for, and they can go into the system and either approve or deny the request. You can also see on this calendar that there's already time off requests on it. So if I hover over it, I can see what occurred on any of these requests, such as my vacation that I originally requested was canceled. I can change the time period that I want to look at by using the calendar or the drop-down. Usually the calendar is the most friendliest way to maneuver through this view. So if I want to change it to the following week, I can do that by changing my start date and my end date and clicking OK. And here are some time off requests. So by hovering over the one on Wednesday, October 10th, I can see that I submitted a vacation request for 8:30 to 4:30, 8 hours. If I decide that I might need to change it, I can click on this arrow over here to the right. I have a details and a retract option. My details just shows me more information on what I had entered if I want to review it. As you can see, my note is on my request. So if I decide I don't want to have that day anymore, I can click this, and as long as my manager hasn't approved the request yet, I can click retract. Once I click that, I can review what I want to retract and click submit. For now, I'm going to leave that vacation request there. If my manager has approved my request, you will have to ask your manager to cancel it for you, or you will have another option here to cancel. If you click cancel, your manager will get an email letting them know that you have requested to cancel your request for time off. All employees have this type of view of their accruals. So includes hourly and salary employees. If we go back to the time card by clicking home and then myself, time and attendance, time workspace, I'm going to show you another view of your time card. So at the bottom of your time card in the drawer I showed you earlier with your hours, there's also a tab audits. From time to time, you might have some edits in your time card, or your time card has been approved, but you're not aware of who approved it. You can actually look in this audits tab view and see different action that has been made on your time card. Again, the columns can be moved around so you can view it better, or you can hover over different cells and see the action. Right now I'm going to switch over to a salary employee's time card so you can see what one of those look like. Once again, Salary employees do not have to timestamp. They will be using the system for time card approvals and to request time off. Requesting time off is exactly like I showed you. The view is different on the time card. So let's go to the time card. Myself, time and attendance, time workspace. The view of a time card for a salary employee is a bit shorter. Has the drawer too, just like an hourly employee's view. Again, the pay codes are to the left, the dates are across the top, and the totals are to the right of the pay card. There is a schedule behind the scenes for all employees. Salary employees are unable to see their schedule from this view. They can see their schedule in their calendar. So as you can see, this employee works 8 hours a day with a total of 40 hours a week. If this employee had any kind of sick time, you would see an additional line here with the exception code sick under pay code with the hours associated with it. For instance, if I go to the next pay period, you will see on this employee's time card, they have a vacation code for 8 hours. Again, by looking at the drawer, you can switch things around for a different type of view, such as daily, and click on it and see the amount of hours. You can also look at the audits tab. All employees need to approve their time card. The way to approve your time card is at the top left, you would click Approve Time Card and select Approve Time Card. Once you do that, you will receive a yellow bar at the top noting that you have approved your time card and your time card turns blue. If you need to remove your time card, you just click Approve Time Card again, remove time card approval. Everyone has to approve their time card every pay period. So when you go to approve your time card, make sure you're on the right pay period. This is very important. So as you can see, this pay period is not complete. So I'm going to go to the previous pay period. With this pay period is over, and the time card is gray. That means that payroll has signed off and processed payroll. No edits can be made to the time card. For the current pay period, if I'm happy with the view of it, I'm going to approve it. Once I approve it, my manager can go ahead and approve my time card. That's the end of our employee training. Thank you everyone for joining me.